was in San Francisco on the 7th floor, the cancer ward. He was a mean man, just wicked. He was on the same floor as my boy, 3 doors down. And he was cussing and pitching a fit and carrying on like that. My boy's holding on to life by a thread. So I marched down there and I said, hey, you need to shut your mouth. I don't want to hear your bad language, and neither does my son. And he yells at me more. Who do you think you are? And I said, well, I'm a Christian, and you don't get to do what you want. I'm not a second-class citizen because you think you can do what you want. And I had a little bracelet one of the kids here at the church made for me. It said, Jesus loves you, and it was on stretchy band, you know. And I hung it on his IV pole, and he started cursing and screaming, get that off of there. I said, no, I know who you are. You're an old heathen dying of cancer, and there's nothing you can do about it. And you can't even get up to take that off. You're hopeless. You're helpless. And I would come to his room every day. And I was in San Francisco that whole year, and I'd drive home on Friday or Saturday, and we'd have Sunday church, and then Monday I'd leave again. Well, I'd come, and that guy, after a month of that, he started to say things like, what took you so long? And I would say, I'm going to get my boy some ice cream. What flavor do you want? I don't want anything from you. Yeah. So I'd bring him some chocolate, you know. And I did that for a good month to him. And then one day, he began to tell me his story, and he began to say what a big deal he was, you know. I said, you're not a big deal. He goes, I'm a big deal. No, you're nobody. Without Christ, you're nobody. I begin to speak this way for another month to this guy. Ending of the story, the guy finds Christ. The nurses, he was so mean and so obstinate, the nurses did not want to go in his room. They would come and get me and have me go with them to calm him down because they couldn't handle him. He was just wild and mean. When he got saved, I would go in and read the Bible to him. And he gave me a number, and he said, this is my wife's phone number. When I die, would you call her and tell her I found Christ? Or why don't you tell her yourself, well, she doesn't like me much. I don't think she'll take my call. You know, I was there 90% of the time, probably 80 to 90, and he never had one visitor. I was his only visitor. Time would go by, and he said to me, oh, the Lord's really moving. I have a bone marrow transplant. It's a perfect match. Well, perfect match in the bone marrow world isn't that good of a thing because the bone marrow's got to fight a little bit. And if it's 100% match, it'll fall flat. There's no fight, and the guy's going to die. And if you get a bone marrow transplant, the guy who's given the bone marrow, I know because they did this to my daughter, and she had me go in with her. You go into this little room, and a social worker and a nurse is there, and they say, now, you're a match, and your marrow might save your brother. But if you don't want to do it, the medical, UCSF said this, if you don't want to do it, it is our policy to pass the information on to your brother and your family that we made a mistake and you're not a match after all. And that way you don't have to do it. And she said, no, I'm gonna do it, you know. So Ernie Kinney, his brother, was a perfect match. 2 days later, I was in there talking to him, and he said, well, I guess they made a mistake. He wasn't a perfect match after all. The brother measured the man and decided, why should I go through all that pain for this jerk, right? Maybe. So he's dying. He comes down with his IV pole to my son, and he says this, mean, angry atheist his whole life. That made him a great criminal attorney, by the way. he came into my son and he said, I want you to know, young man, whether you live or die is not my business. But what is my business, I'm going to tell you today. If you had not got leukemia and you had not come to this floor and your mother had not stormed my room, I would never be saved. I would go to hell. God loved me enough to allow an affliction to come on you so he could reach me. Because, boy, he said, I was unreachable. And they had a little prayer time. Ernie Kinney went to his room. Ernie Kinney, a week later, would pass away. And I called his wife. And I told her the story. And she wept and wept. She said, I'd like you to speak at the funeral, if you don't mind, and tell this story. I was married to him over 3 decades. He would never find Christ. He was so mean, and he abused me for going to church. He hated everybody. It's a miracle. I said, okay. So I went to the funeral, which was at Wolf Lakes, and it was more than packed. The entire facility was rented for this wicked man. And I got out of my car and began to walk up the area, and I stopped and looked at all the people, and I said, wow, he was right. He was kind of a big deal. He spent hours telling me what a big deal he was. If the only way God can get that guy is to get this guy and have that guy go through this so that guy can get rescued because of that guy way down there, then it's a deal. You can't measure the economy of God. So if some terrible thing happens to you and it tries to get you to lose your hope, it tries to get you to not believe anymore, it tries to get you to have doubt, don't believe it, because there's an eternal purpose for that only God knows, and God doesn't reveal everything he knows. Remember that is true. Everything you've gone through will matter. It will matter to somebody who you'll probably never meet. They'll watch how you stand, they'll watch how you walk, and half the time, they don't know a small percentage of the trash you're going through. But they'll still honor God because of the little bit that they know.